Whether consumers are paying too much for beef in June 2025 is a contentious question with no simple answer. From a purely budgetary standpoint, with retail prices at historic highs, many households would emphatically say yes. However, a look at the entire supply chain reveals a more complex picture where the high prices are not the result of a single entity's greed, but rather a classic economic shock originating at the very beginning of the supply chain. Here's a breakdown of the different perspectives on why you're paying more for beef and whether that price is justified. The consumer perspective. Sticker shock at the meat counter. For the average shopper, the situation is clear. Beef prices are painfully high. Record high prices. In May and June 2025, the average price for ground beef has hovered around $5.98 per pound, with overall beef prices up approximately 8.6% from the previous year. This significantly outpaces general inflation. Budget strain. These prices are forcing many families to make tough choices, either by reducing their beef consumption, switching to more affordable proteins like chicken and pork, or trading down from expensive steaks to ground beef. Perception versus reality. When prices rise this sharply, it's natural for consumers to feel they are being overcharged, leading to questions about fairness and price gouging somewhere in the system. From this viewpoint, beef is indeed too expensive, as it strains household budgets and limits consumer choice. The rancher's perspective. A long overdue market correction. For American cattle producers, the current high prices are not a windfall, but a necessary market correction after years of hardship. Historic supply crunch. The U.S. cattle herd is at its smallest size in over 70 years. This is not a recent development, but the result of multi-year droughts that scorched pastures and dramatically increased feed costs, forcing ranchers to sell off their cattle, including their breeding stock. High input costs. While cattle prices are high, ranchers still face elevated costs for fuel, equipment, and labor. Market leverage. For the first time in several years, the laws of supply and demand are firmly in the rancher's favor. The tight supply means meat packers must pay a premium for available cattle. In this view, consumers are not paying too much, but are rather paying a price that reflects the true, current cost and scarcity of raising cattle. The meat packer and retailer perspective. A story of shrinking margins. During the COVID-19 pandemic, meat packers faced accusations of profiteering as the gap between what they paid for cattle and what consumers paid for beef widened significantly. However, the situation in 2025 is different. Passing costs along. The primary driver of today's high retail prices is the record high cost of acquiring cattle. Meat packers are paying more to the rancher and are, in turn, passing that cost on down the line to retailers and, ultimately, consumers. Thinner margins. Unlike a few years ago, meat packer profit margins on their U.S. beef business are reportedly under pressure. Major companies have noted the challenging environment due to the high cost of cattle. The spread. The farm-to-retail price spread is a complex measure, but analysis suggests that a larger portion of the consumer's dollar is currently flowing back to the farm gate compared to when packer margins were at their peak. From this perspective, the high prices are a necessary business reality to cover the massive expense of the raw material, cattle, not an attempt to gouge consumers. Conclusion: is it too much? Calling today's beef prices too much is a justified sentiment for consumers feeling the financial pinch. However, it's not a story of price gouging by middlemen. The current market is a direct reflection of a severe supply shock at the farm level. The nation's cattle herd needs to be rebuilt, and that is a slow and expensive process. Until that happens, the fundamental scarcity of cattle will continue to command high prices. Ultimately, you are paying a price that reflects the immense challenge and cost of producing beef in the current climate. It is a stark example of how events on ranches across the country, from drought to high operating costs, directly impact the choices you have at the grocery store.